Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out Fox Boss 9, and today I want to talk about a go-kart that we used to have. I'm looking at a picture here of it, and here it is. Actually, we're selling it at a yard sale at this point. This is a go-kart that we picked up for our kids, and I'm going to show you some riding around clips so you can get an idea of what it's like and speed-wise and size-wise. And this was for smaller kids, but two adults can ride on this quite easily. But what I'm saying, for smaller kids up to teenagers, you can really beat on this thing. It's pretty durable. What you're looking at here is the go-kart in the back of a Dodge Dakota, and it's just a regular bed Dodge Dakota. I can load that by myself. It was really easy. It wasn't too heavy. What you do is just make it pull a wheelie using your foot and the roll bars to get the front wheels up, and then you just lift the back end. Now, the thing is I hated driving this thing around as much as the kids wanted to ride on it. So what we did was let them play on it for the most part when it was cool and hadn't been hot. But my wife, she drove it almost exclusively because it beats you up pretty good. The suspension is the tires. That's it. The front has some little springs, but they really don't do too much. And the back tires, we could have dropped the inflation a little bit and made it a little bit smoother ride, but I liked riding it really hard and doing donuts and stuff. My wife, not so much. So, unfortunately, you won't see me really running the crap out of this thing. It's a 10-horse engine that's on here. You could opt to put an electric start on it. It had a place for a battery, and it had a provision for an electric starter. There wasn't a button or anything like that, though. There was a kill switch, of course, on the steering wheel. The nice thing about the engine was that it was a Tecumseh Power Sport, and although Tecumseh had always problems with their carburetors, the engine was just flawless. I never had a problem with it. You could get a 12-horse on this model. I really don't see the need for it, but you could do it. It had a lot of power. It had one of those torque averters. I think Comet made them initially. I don't know who made this one. And this is a Manco Dingo Deuce. I'm assuming that it means deuce for two riders. We put a slow-moving triangle on it, so if we got it on the street, we could actually have some legit excuse of why we had it on the street, or at least we were trying to be safe. You hear my kids. There's two of them on there now, and I don't know, they're being goofy. I mean, this was a long time ago. You can see this was 98, so many moons ago. My daughter, who's in the middle now, she's graduating, is going to be married in a couple years, and my son, who's on the passenger side, he's a senior in high school this year, so it's kind of funny. The two always wanted to ride, but it was really packed close for those two to be in there. Here I am on it in the passenger seat, and again, my wife don't run it very hard, so you're just getting an idea of what it's like to be on this thing, trying to hold the camera as steady as possible. It was a lot of fun. I think we paid close to $2,000 or just over $2,000 for this thing with tax when it was brand new. And we had it until I believe it was 2009 or 2010. So, and whenever we sold it, the pictures that you seen at the beginning, that was me posting it on Craigslist. It was in excellent shape. I mean, we always took care of our stuff, but it held up well. And we did more than just field riding. There was another place to ride that had more hills and valleys and all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But without a suspension, you can only do so much as far as the clearance. You can see is kind of low, which I found actually to be more fun that way, tell you the truth. I really enjoyed it. It was a go-kart. It wasn't an ATV. It wasn't a four-wheeler. It wasn't a quad. It was, what it was, that there. And it was, like I said, a lot of fun. Of course, the kids, when they got older, they rode it. The seat moved back and forth. Of course, it had seat belts. The protection that bar provided. It wasn't really rollover protection. It was kind of strengthening and places for you to grab, and I guess if it tipped it might help a little bit, but it wasn't to any size. This run here I would come flying through, and there was a little lip that would actually make the go-kart kind of lift a little bit if you had some speed, but you can see how it bucks. The problem is as you bounce, the throttle was so sensitive it would cause your foot to come off the throttle and then back on the throttle again, so it was twofold. You had the bumps and then you had the jerking the engine. I don't know if Manco still makes these, and I know they made the Dingo, which was a single-seater, and you could get the same configuration. It was just one single seat. And in this case, my wife, who's shorter, she has the seat all the way up, pretty much, or darn near close all the way up, where I would put it all the way back. And the other thing was, is if you had two riders on this go-kart, two adult riders, and one of them being heavy like me, it really smoothed out the ride and made it much nicer. And again, it's because those tires in the back were the suspension, and the extra weight caused them to, depress a little bit more. We would take this out on the road occasionally in the neighborhood that we're at currently riding here, although it wasn't legal. And it would do probably, I'm guessing 30, maybe 35 miles an hour. I couldn't really tell. You're sitting so close to the ground, and I think 30 for sure. I can't imagine it not doing 30. And the reason I say that is the engine still turned a decent RPM. And with that torque converter, once it, moved the belts in and out, as a variator would, and those bigger flotation tires on the back, those ATV style tires, I mean, you had a lot of rotating mass there that was large in diameter, more large than what a smaller go-kart tire would be. So it had a taller gear basically, and you had a taller tire to give you that speed. Again, it's just showing you it running around. I know that there were some people that were asking me about go-karts I had in the past based on another video that I had on a small yard cart that I bought as a project just to fix up and sell. And this was actually the second go-kart that I had. I had one whenever I was younger, whenever I was in my late teens, and it was all electric. That was kind of odd. That was definitely a different situation, and I loved it, except we were always charging batteries, and they were automotive batteries. They didn't really have much back then. I mean, this was in the early 80s, but the second cart that I got obviously was a gas cart, and I liked it. And I really got this for the kids more than anything else, but of course we drove it around with them on it almost all the time. I have a hitch on the back of it, a little ball mount. It holds not very much. I can't remember what the weight rating was of the hitch as far as the hitch load rate, but we had a little trailer that we hooked to this, and the neighborhood kids would come over and get in the back, and I wouldn't go flying around with the neighborhood kids in it, but they would lay down in the cart, and then somebody would be up front, and we would go out riding around with it, and it was a lot of fun. I would take them around the neighborhood. Of course, my son, he wanted to ride it all the time, and my daughter, she was okay. She wanted to ride it because you know how kids are. Her brother was riding it, and she wanted her turn. So whenever he had to get off, he really hated it because he really did enjoy that go-kart. He would ride it until we ran out of gas. And then when we got older, he used to ride it a lot. But not as much as when they were little like this. So anyways, because of the people asking about my previous kart experience, I just wanted to show you what it looked like. I'll let you enjoy these last few minutes without commentation. And at the end here, you'll see a picture of it, like you did at the beginning. And it's a decent kart. It was a good entry-level kart. It was really cool. I will let you go here. I'll quit talking, but it was really cool. One time in the winter, I affixed plexiglass to the two supports in the front, basically making it a windshield. And then I made sides for it and a back for it that blocked us off from the engine, and had a roof and everything else. It was all made out of canvas and plexiglass. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of that. And we rode it in the winter, which that was a lot of fun. My son really enjoyed that. Of course, whenever the grass was a little wet, or if it was even really dry, this thing would do donuts really easily. A lot of it had to do with all the weight being on the back end. Once you got that momentum started, I mean, it would drift like nobody's business. And then whenever we got it in the snow, it was just tenfold the fun. It was nothing but drifting for the most part. So I'll let you enjoy this last little bit here, and I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below. If you like this video, click like or subscribe, and I'll try to get more on just like it.